let's start with a question that honestly sounds like the setup to a really weird joke. But it's a real question that sparked a global legal fight and makes you wonder, what does it even mean to create something? Who actually owns a monkey's selfie?
Right, so this is Naruto. He's a macaque monkey living in Indonesia. And yeah, back in 2011, he took this picture. And you got to admit, it's an incredible photo, right? Just look at that face. But the second he pressed that button, he accidentally created a puzzle that the entire legal world had absolutely no idea how to solve.
So, you're probably wondering, how on earth did we get here? How does a monkey even take a selfie that becomes an internet legend? Well, let's back up and get the story straight.
Okay, so the story starts in 2011. A British nature photographer, David Slater, is in Indonesia. He's there specifically to get pictures of these crested macaques. He sets up his camera, and one of the monkeys, our friend Naruto, gets curious, grabs it, and just starts snapping away. The result? These incredible selfies that, of course, went completely viral.
Now, as you can probably guess, whenever something gets that famous online, the question of who owns it and who gets paid for it is never far behind. And this is where a funny little internet story suddenly becomes a massive, complicated legal battle. And it really boils down to this. Who is the author? On one side, you have David Slater. He's arguing, hey, I did all the real work. I traveled there, I spent time befriending the monkeys, I set up all the expensive gear. He's saying the monkey just pushed a button. But on the other side, you have groups like Wikipedia and PETA, and they're saying, nope, the author is the one who physically takes the picture. And since a monkey did that, and animals can't hold a copyright, well, the photo should belong to everyone. It's in the public domain.
And you can really hear Slater's frustration here. In his mind, this wasn't just some lucky accident. He sees this photograph as the end result of all his professional skill, his effort, his sweat and anguish. The monkey was basically just a tool he cleverly used to get the shot.
So with two completely opposite ideas of what creation even means, everyone turned to the courts for an answer. Let's see how the law handled a case it was definitely never designed for.
And there it is. The answer from the U.S. Copyright Office couldn't be more clear. It's actually kind of funny. All that debate about who put in the real effort, legally, it didn't matter at all. The law says if the creator isn't a human, there is no copyright. End of story.
And the reasoning behind it is pretty straightforward when you think about it. The law was written by people, for people. It uses words like persons, children, widows, things that just don't apply to animals. And get this, the court basically said, look, if the government wanted animals to be able to own things and sue people, they would have written that into the law. They even updated their official rulebook to specifically use a photograph taken by a monkey as an example of something you just can't copyright.
So, case closed, right? The law gave us a nice, neat answer. But that's not really the end of it, because the most interesting questions in this whole saga aren't the legal ones. They're philosophical, and this is where the story gets much, much deeper. And this is where we're going to pivot. There's a children's philosophy book from Turkey called The Photograph Looking for Its Owner, and it takes this exact situation and uses it to talk about ethics with kids. It totally gets away from all the boring legal stuff and gets right to what actually matters. Fairness, what it means to own something, and respect. This really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? The law is all about what is possible inside a system of rules. Can a monkey legally own a photo? No. But philosophy, especially when you start talking about it with kids, is about what is right. Should the monkey have some claim to it? Now that's a much more interesting question. So let's do exactly what this book does. Let's just put the law books aside for a minute and ask some of these simple but actually really profound questions that get to the real core of this whole thing. I mean, what a powerful way to look at it. You could argue that David Slater's camera setup was basically a clever kind of trap to capture an image. So does the person who sets the trap get to own everything that happens inside of it? Or does the one who is trapped have a say? When you ask kids this, they don't talk about legal authorship. They talk about what's fair.
And this question is even more basic. I mean, think about it. David Slater used the monkey's image, and Wikipedia used the photograph. And obviously, neither of them could ask Naruto for permission. This book gets kids thinking about why we even have that rule. It's about respect, right? Respect for the one who made something.
This really digs into the why behind the whole mess. The lawsuits and the arguments, that was the fight. But the actual disagreement started way before that. It started because two sides had totally different ideas about what ownership and creation meant. By asking what causes the disagreement, you have to look at your own assumptions about who deserves credit.
All right, so after all that, after a trip through the court of law and the court of, let's say, childhood philosophy, where does that leave us? Well, we basically have two very different answers to the same question.
And here it is, side by side. The legal answer is simple, clean, and practical. No one owns it. The work wasn't made by a human, so it's in the public domain for everyone to use. But the philosophical answer, well, it's just a really good, complicated question. It doesn't give us a neat solution. Instead, it forces us to really think about what creativity is. What is more important, the idea and the setup, or the final act of creation?
And we'll end on that note. You know, this whole monkey selfie story might seem like a bizarre one-time thing, but this question, it's quickly becoming one of the most important questions of our time. Think about it. When an AI paints a masterpiece or writes a song, who's the author? The AI? The programmer who coded it? The person who gave it a prompt? As we just saw, the law isn't ready for that question. But thanks to one very curious monkey, we're all being forced to think about it.